In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. It's just a couple of weeks until I celebrate an anniversary. Not my wife or my kids, but it is a 49th anniversary of a major impact on my life. It was when 7-year-old me saw Star Wars for the first time. 1977, I heard like someone grimace back there. I mean, it's been 4 months since I made a Star Wars reference in a sermon, so I mean, just cut me a little slack. But it was a movie that just filled a young boy with awe. I mean, it is the age-old epic of good versus evil, right? You got Vader versus Skywalker, the Jedi versus the Sith, the rebellion striking its major blow against the evil empire. And you can imagine the anticipation that a boy goes through having to wait 3 whole years for the next chapter to come out. Arguably, as if there is any argument, the best movie of the entire franchise, Empire Strikes Back. And sitting in that theater in the spring of 1980, munching popcorn and taking it all in, waiting to see the good guys beat the bad guys one more time. And the movie kept really drawing that out. We kept waiting for it to happen. Waiting for it. And as the movie finally gets near the end, I was on the edge of my seat just waiting for the big reveal, for the heroes to win the day, right up until the credits roll. And my 10-year-old mind was completely blown at that time, because that is not what's supposed to happen, right? The good guys always win, at least in my up-to-then sanitized Disney-esque version of life. Ironically, now the people who own the Star Wars franchise. But at the end of the film, the heroes are completely broken apart, disbanded. Han is gone. Luke has lost a hand. He's shaken by the revelation that Darth Vader is his father. The rebellion is just barely hanging on. It feels like at that moment that everything that we think that we know has been turned upside down. And then the credits begin to roll without a resolution in sight. So you may kind of see where that's going, because in a way that is where we find ourselves today. Holy Week is a very heavy time to walk through. And if you've taken that journey this week, I know you can feel it as well. And like, Empire, by the time we reach this moment in the story, everything has become unraveled. The disciples are scattered. Peter, you heard, denying Jesus. The crowds have turned against who should be the good guys. And it feels like evil has the upper hand. It feels like everything that was good and hopeful just a few days before is now collapsing. And like the movie, it feels like everything that we think we know has been turned upside down. And then just like the end with the credits, the tomb is sealed and the credits begin to roll, at least for this portion of the story. Even more jarring is what happens in the middle of this dark episode. It's kind of interesting. You see one man going in to see Pilate, but 2 people coming out. 2 Jesuses. When Father Sean a couple of years ago on Good Friday talked about Jesus Barabbas, I thought, I think he kind of made a verbal typo there. But no. Jesus Barabbas is the name of Barabbas in the earliest manuscripts, a name that we really normally don't hear in the story. Jesus, Son of the Father. That's what Barabbas actually means, Son of the Father. So it makes the question far more nuanced than just which man goes free. You could really ask, which son of the Father do you want? One of the sons of the Father just stands there saying nothing. He's the one that has healed. He's the one that has taught. He's also been the one that has refused violence at every turn. The other son of the Father is a bandit. He's an insurrectionist, right? A man who has taken up violence at every turn, especially against the Roman occupiers. So you have one Jesus that's living an example of self-giving love. The other represents force, power. He represents control. And who does the crowd choose? They don't choose the man of peace. They choose the man of violence. They choose the one who fights. Really, they choose the one who looks to be the strongest. There are people, who have been wronged by all the powerful in the world. And when they find these small glimmers of hope from a man who fights back when they can't or are too afraid to fight back. And if we are being honest with ourselves, that choice really should not seem all that strange. It really should be familiar to us. Now, we like to think that we would have chosen differently. But look at us. Take a good look at how we live, how we conduct ourselves, how quickly we turn to anger, how quickly things escalate, and then how easily we try to justify all of it. We are really at a time when violence permeates almost just every part of our lives. And it's not just something that is out there anymore, like it used to be. Maybe something we would see on TV news once a day. It's something that happens somewhere else, something that happens to someone else. But now it's everywhere. It's in our lives, it's in our politics, it's in our words, it's how we treat people who disagree with us. We actually reward outrage these days. Yeah, what those people are saying, those are the things I wish I could say. We excuse cruelty if it's aimed at the right people. And we disguise it. We call it strength. We call it honesty. We call it telling it like it is. Underneath the surface, it is really still the same choice. Barabbas or Jesus, force or sacrifice. Now, the hard truth is we keep choosing Barabbas again, and again. What choose the person we kind of want to be like, and we overlook the gentle path towards Christ. Now, maybe it is because taking the high road doesn't always look like it works for us. Certainly not on a day like today. Because on this day, it really does look like evil wins. And not only does evil win, but revels in the pain and suffering of the one who walks in the gentle path. Because Jesus is condemned, he is beaten mercilessly, he is scourged. And the Gospels tell that in just a few words, almost like it's in passing. He was flogged. That is not a small thing. It is not a minor detail. The scourging itself is brutal. It is designed to tear a person apart. The leather cords that are just embedded with bone and metal, so that blow after blow after blow, the skin is just ripped open, muscles exposed, the body beginning to fail even before the execution can start. And we tend to kind of sanitize the way that we read that line, and we just kind of move past it fairly quickly. But if you've ever seen that movie, Passion of the Christ, you really get a glimpse. Right? It is a hard movie to watch, almost too hard. But I think that it's one of the most accurate portrayals of the scourging of Jesus that he goes through and the crucifixion than any other movie has ever attempted to make. And Linda and I watch it every year at this time. And I don't watch it because I'm drawn to the violence of the film. I actually watch it because specifically I'm so repulsed by the violence in the film. To see the unsanitized version of what Jesus goes through on my behalf, and to have an even greater appreciation for that sacrifice. This violence is what the peaceful Jesus receives. The other Jesus Barabbas, goes free. The violent man goes home, and the innocent man is torn apart. Some of us might look at this and scream that there really is no justice in it. There's no justice being delivered in the story. That what has happened, though, is not injustice. It's substitution. Right? Barabbas gets to go free because Jesus takes his place. Now think about this closely. Guilty man goes free because an innocent man is condemned in his place. That's sounding like a little foreshadowing, because it is what we see at a much, much larger scale when Jesus will be shortly nailed to the cross. And in that substitution, taking on the sins of the entire world and the world to come, fully on himself, substituting himself again, not just for one person, but for every person. I wonder where you find yourself in the story today. When we preach about this story, we often talk about it as if we were there. Would we be one of the ones shouting to crucify because the man of peace doesn't fit our ideal of strength? Or would we be maybe one of the silent voices, just quietly wishing to take the path of love, but fearful of making waves when it feels like you are a lone voice going against the majority? Now, here is one that I don't think that probably very many of us have really ever imagined. And it's not a very comforting thought. I think we're Barabbas. We are the ones who get to go free. Not because we earned it, but because Christ takes our place. Okay, well, I said it was a heavy week, and it is really especially heavy to some of us. And yet, knowing how the story ends, knowing which one we're supposed to choose, still way too many of us find ourselves drawn to Barabbas, to the force, to the anger, to the control. And we still believe deep down, I think, as much as we would like to say we don't, that violence works, that violence fixes things. I think on Good Friday that Jesus is also teaching, right? And he's giving us one final lesson. And he's showing us that all violence really does is destroy. And Jesus refuses to go that way. Even if the face of torture and death, Jesus doesn't resist. And he doesn't retaliate. He doesn't answer violence for violence. He just takes it all in on himself. And it is in that moment that it doesn't look like the good guys have won. It looks like they've lost. This is what looks like, for most people there, the end of the story. But we do know something that the crowd doesn't know. And we all know that this is not the end. All right? We know that it looks like the end, but really it's a new beginning. It's the launch of something new. But today we don't get to rush to it just yet. So today we've just got to sit with it for a little while. And we have to stay here. And we have to stay in this moment. And we have to sit for a little while with the heaviness of the cross. Sit and consider the reality of what the cross cost. And maybe we also sit with something that is just as heavy. That when we are given the choice, we often still make the wrong choice. We often still choose the wrong Jesus. And maybe we should take a little time to sit with that guilt. And then, through again and again choosing that wrong Jesus, that the right Jesus is still always choosing us.